Is there anything about Ross and his career that you have any respect for?
Oh, no, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. I never wanted to work with him.
Rick Ross spent years fronting like he was unbothered, but his baby mama just pulled the curtain back on the truth. He's terrified of 50 Cent, and it's way uglier than anyone imagined.
I'm deciding to your life up. Rick Ross, I'm gonna your life up.
The man who built his empire on being a boss? Turns out he's been losing sleep over the one enemy he can't shake.
I kicked Rick ass. Kicked Rick Ross ass, right?
And when Ross finally fired back, it wasn't just about pride, it was about survival. The way 50 ripped him apart from the inside will have you wondering how Ross even managed to stay standing. And guess what? It all started over a look. Yeah, just one glance at the 2008 BET Awards, and suddenly Ross had a personal vendetta against 50 Cent.
Ross and 50, they've had a long-standing beef for years. And I think this Rick Ross beef is the one beef that 50 will never let go of.
But here's the kicker. 50 didn't even realize he was in a feud. He later admitted he couldn't even remember seeing Ross that night. But Ross? He took that as straight-up disrespect. At the time, Ross was sitting pretty at the top of his career, 2 platinum albums deep and cementing his status as the ultimate rap boss. He felt untouchable, but when he locked eyes with 50 at the BET Awards, something inside him snapped.
Hey, say what the f you want about 50 Cent, but I swear this man's pettiness is uncanny. Like this I feel is everybody's alter ego.
Maybe it was paranoia. Maybe he was reaching for some extra clout. Either way, he made the deadliest mistake of his career, coming for one of the most ruthless figures in hip-hop history. And let's keep it real, 50 didn't even notice him. That's the level of pettiness we're talking about here.
It was sort of embarrassing to me, you know, because as you listen to his raps, you would definitely believe him, but I mean, it was surprising that he would sit there and say he spends $200 a month on food, $300 a month on clothes, his jewelry is rented.
But Ross? He saw an opening and went all in, launching a full-scale attack. The problem? He severely underestimated who he was dealing with. Ross thought he could stir up some drama and attach his name to one of rap's biggest stars. What he didn't expect? 50 was about to blow everything up. Ross didn't just throw a little shade in an interview, he went straight for the kill with mafia music. And he didn't hold back. In the track, Ross made a not-so-subtle jab at the house fire that nearly wiped out 50's baby mama and their son, Marquise.
Finna dig up a whole bunch of motherfucking maggots right now, ho. I'm not finna play with you, you Ozempic bitch.
Now at first listen, it might sound like just another rap flex, but everybody knew what Ross was insinuating. He was stirring up one of the darkest accusations against 50, something that had already put him under the microscope. Even 50's ex, Shaniqua Tompkins, publicly pointed the finger at him for that fire, which burned the house to the ground while 6 people were inside. Ross saw the controversy and ran with it, doubling down on the disrespect. And you already know 50 wasn't about to let that slide. But Ross didn't just stop at the diss track. He started flexing like he had already won the war before it even started. Talking big, acting like he ran hip-hop, like 50 was just another stepping stone. But if there's one thing 50 does better than anybody in the game, he takes rap beefs to a whole other level. See, 50 wasn't about to drop just another diss track. He was about to dismantle Rick Ross's entire persona. So he started digging, and what he uncovered changed everything. That's when 50 exposed Ross's past as a correctional officer, a bombshell that completely shattered Ross's street legend status. Ross had spent years building an empire off the image of a certified boss, a kingpin straight out of the trenches, a hustler who made it out by any means necessary. But 50 had the receipts. And when those pictures dropped, it was over. Ross, standing there in a correctional officer's uniform, a man who rapped about pushing weight was actually pushing prison paperwork. 50 made sure the entire world knew the truth. And just like that, the self-proclaimed boss got his entire credibility torched. But 50 wasn't done. Not even close. Instead of stopping there, he went straight to the source, Rick Ross's own baby mama, Tia Kemp. And let's just say, she had plenty to get off her chest. Sitting down with 50, Tia aired out every humiliating detail about Ross's so-called boss lifestyle. According to her, Ross was nothing but smoke and mirrors, leasing cars, renting jewelry, and fronting like his life was way more luxurious than it actually was. In his lyrics, he made it sound like he owned everything. In reality, he was just leasing the lifestyle. But that wasn't even the worst part. 50 took it even further. Tia didn't just spill the tea, she confirmed the correctional officer rumors, doubling down on the damage. And then, 50 did something Ross could never recover from. He spoiled Tia himself. Yeah, 50 took Ross's own baby mama on a shopping spree, flexing like he was the real boss. And if that wasn't disrespectful enough, 50 flew Ross's son out to Vegas with Floyd Mayweather, snapping pictures of them living it up. And where was Ross? Silent. He couldn't do anything to undo it. The internet had already run wild with it, and 50 had just locked in one of the most disrespectful moves in hip-hop beef history. But then, 50 made a critical mistake. He took things too far. He leaked a tape featuring Ross's other baby mama, Lastonia Leviston. And this time, it backfired hard. Not only did this one move flip the script, but it also ended up costing 50 a massive $5 million lawsuit. Lastonia sued for emotional distress, and when the judge ruled in her favor, 50 took a real hit. It stung so bad that he had to file for bankruptcy. For the first time in this war, 50 actually took an L. But Ross? He just kept making music, acting like nothing happened. And somehow fans stopped caring so much about the Officer Ricky scandal. Fast forward, and just when people thought this beef had finally died down, Tia Kemp came back for more. She jumped on Instagram Live and let the whole world know that Ross is still shook of 50. Why? Because 50 knows too much. Tia didn't just throw shade. She hinted that Ross might be tangled up in something way darker than just rap beef. And just when things couldn't get messier, boom, some vintage Tia flicks started circulating online. Specifically, her 2009 Smooth magazine cover shoot. Now, baby mama thirst traps are nothing new, but what made these pics extra scandalous? It wasn't just about how she was posing, it was who she was posing with. And guess what? The man behind the camera was 50 Cent himself, Rick Ross's biggest enemy, casually playing photographer for Ross's baby mama like it was some kind of personal art project. In the now viral cover shot, Tia is perched right over 50, rocking nothing but lacy black panties, a sparkly sheer top, and bright red heels, while 50 is laid out on the floor, snapping the pic with a retro camera aimed right at her. And as if the whole setup wasn't shady enough, Smooth magazine made it even pettier. Their subheading? Where's the beef? Oh, and just to twist the knife deeper, they let 50 Cent himself introduce Rick Ross's baby mama, Tia. Not only did 50 handpick Tia for her little magazine moment, but he made absolutely sure Ross knew who was behind it all. Fast forward to today, and these two are still finding new ways to take shots at each other. The latest chapter, Rick Ross linking up with Big Meech after his prison release. A power move that had 50 absolutely fuming. And why? Because 50 Cent is the executive producer of the BMF TV series, the official story of Meech's empire. So for Ross to cozy up with Meech, 50 saw it as the ultimate betrayal. And you know 50 wasn't about to let that slide. He hopped on Instagram with a giant rat meme and a not-so-subtle caption, "I think I'm Big Meech." But that wasn't even the worst part. In the caption, 50 made it very clear. Meech made a massive mistake by distancing himself from one key person, Tammy Cowens. If you're wondering who that is, you're not alone. Tammy was Meech's assistant and business partner back in the day, but here's the plot twist. She allegedly flipped and became an FBI informant. And just when things couldn't get any wilder, Ross jumped into the mess, laughing at how pressed 50 was over the whole situation. Meech taking a picture with Ross, that was just another shot fired in this never-ending war. But if there's one person who loves clowning Ross as much as 50 Cent, it's Tia Kemp. And she just took things to a whole new level. Tia dragged Ross right into Diddy's freak-off party scandal, straight up claiming that Ross was mixed up in the same shady business that got Diddy hit with federal trafficking charges. She even threw in a little extra spice, calling Ross out with the phrase Diddy Doula, suggesting he had some involvement in the wild suspect parties Diddy is now being investigated for. And she didn't stop there. Tia fired off at Ross, telling him to check on his friend, throwing massive shade at their past parties and that weird social media bromance they had. The implication? Ross might have been deeper in the mix than people realized. And this wasn't even the first time she put Ross on blast. She jumped on Instagram Live, clowning Ross for staying silent about Diddy's situation. But Tia wasn't just talking. She came with receipts and wasn't afraid to name drop. Then, she went even deeper, claiming Ross wasn't just connected to Diddy's scandal, but to something way more sinister. According to Tia, Ross himself was involved in putting hits on people, and she made it very clear she wasn't done yet. Her next move? Blow the whistle and send federal authorities straight to his doorstep. And then, things took a real dark turn. Tia dropped a bombshell that left fans stunned. She brought up a murder. She mentioned a name that caught everyone off guard, Ms. Carroll. Now, if you're wondering who Ms. Carroll is, Tia claimed she was murdered after leaving her mom's house. And the drama was somehow linked to Ross and his crew. And that wasn't all. She even referenced a man who was shot right in front of Black House. Another situation that could be connected to Ross's inner circle. At this point, Tia isn't just stirring the pot, she's threatening to blow the whole lid off. And if even half of what she's saying is true, Ross might be looking at something way worse than just rap beef. Then, in an episode of Reha, Please Tia came through with even more tea, and this time, she had some things to set straight. First off, Tia's been dealing with co-parenting chaos with Rick Ross for 18 years, and at this point, she's done playing games. Imagine trying to raise a son, while the other parent pulls disappearing acts, popping in and out like it's some twisted game of peekaboo. That's exactly what Tia's been dealing with, and she's had enough. This wasn't just about flashy headlines. Tia came with all the family mess, the dirty laundry, and the receipts she's been holding on to for years. And guess what? She's claiming Rick's out here with more kids than he can even keep track of. Yeah, you heard that right? She hinted that Ross has some major skeletons in his closet. One of them? Apparently he's got a child with a Russian woman that he's been keeping on the low. But this ain't just about Ross being a dad. According to Tia, Ross is more focused on flexing his power and ego than actually being there for his kid. She even told Young Miami about the time Ross tried to ship their son off to a random college in Mississippi, not because it was the best choice for him, but because Ross wanted to control the situation. And Tia? She also opened up about the pain of raising a child in the spotlight. Her son is now off at an HBCU, but he had to sit there and explain to his classmates why his own father didn't show up to his high school graduation. Imagine that. A kid who had Ross cheering him on at football games, but when it came to one of the biggest moments of his life, Ross was a no-show. Just gone. And Tia? She's not shy about how much this hurt both her and their son. But what frustrates her even more? The way Ross seems to use their kid as a pawn in their never-ending drama. And don't even get her started on Ross's sister, Renee. Apparently, Renee has been meddling in Tia and Ross's business since day one. And Tia, she's got zero respect for her. And trust, she's not holding back when it comes to calling her out. Tia also spilled on a wild situation where she got into an altercation with one of Ross's baby mamas. And child neglect even got brought into the mix. But here's where things get real. Tia opened up about the pressure she's faced for years to stay quiet, all for the sake of keeping the peace. But after 18 years of dealing with Ross and his mess, she's done. And Ross, he's desperate to shut her up, She even revealed that Ross has been trying to silence her, sending cease and desist letters, threatening legal action if she doesn't stop talking. But Tia? She doesn't care one bit. She straight up told Ross to take his legal threats and shove them. Ross tried to clap back, but it was too late. The damage was already done. The internet was already connecting the dots, and it was looking real bad for him. Now people are questioning everything. Is there more to Ross's past than we ever knew? Is he hiding something darker? Did 50 Cent actually win this beef? Or did Ross somehow survive all this humiliation? And the biggest question, why is Ross so scared of 50 Cent? What does 50 know that we don't? Well, trust me, this story is far from over. If you want to stay locked in on all the wildest stories in hip-hop, don't forget to like, share, and comment below with your thoughts. And of course, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on what happens next. Because one thing's for sure, this beef ain't dead yet. See y'all on the next one.